Like water, by Haiku Origami. Bravery is often mistaken for the absence of fear, but in its purest form, it is the quiet acknowledgement of one's own insignificance against the infinite. True courage lies in standing before a power that can erase you and choosing to love it anyway. However, when that love curdles into ownership, bravery transforms into a hollow, jagged thing called hubris, a delusion that the universe exists as a stage for one's own performance. On an empty beach stood a child named Sebastian. Staring out into the sea, he took a step forward. He didn't walk toward the water, he marched. The coastline was a jagged edge of slate and cold foam, while the adults in the village spoke in hushed, terrified tones of a coming famine and shifting political winds. The boy was occupied with a much older war. He stood at the high tide mark, a spindly figure in a ragged linen shirt, brandishing a bleached piece of driftwood as if it were a scepter. "Back," he commanded, his voice cracking against the wind. "I command you to halt." Beneath the roiling gray surface, the oceanic god Neptune stirred. In his eyes the boy was a flicker of golden light against the dimness of the deep. He watched through the eyes of 1,000 jellyfish, amused by the sheer gall of the creature. The sea was a graveyard of empires, a weight of trillions of tons of salt and pressure, yet this tiny collection of blood and bone believed he could dictate the boundary of the shore. Neptune nudged a wave, a playful, foaming swell that rushed up to Sebastian's ankles. The boy didn't flinch. He laughed, stabbing his stick into the retreating froth. "You dare," Sebastian shouted to the gulls. "It tried to take me, but it cannot, for I am Sebastian, ruler of the sea." Neptune felt a ripple of genuine warmth. He liked this spark. He insisted the undertow soften, ensuring the boy's footing remained sure on the slick rocks. In that moment of divine whim, he decided to be the wind at the boy's back. As Sebastian grew older, his bravery had become a local religion. He was the boy who could swim through against the current during a squall and emerge triumphant. He came to think of the ocean as a dog that had successfully broken to his will. Neptune watched the boy come of age, his skin turning the color of polished mahogany, his eyes reflecting the deep turquoise of the shoals. The god was indulgent. He pushed rare shells to the surface for Sebastian to find. He stilled the currents when the boy dove for sunken anchors. But Sebastian never looked down into the water with gratitude. He looked down with the cold, assessing gaze of a master checking his stables. "The sea doesn't provide," Sebastian told the village elders as he tossed a massive sea bass onto the docks. "It surrenders. The difference is everything." Neptune, drifting in the thermal vents far below, felt the first chill of a different kind of cold. His amusement was curdling. He'd meant to foster a companion, a mortal who understood the rhythm of the tides. Instead, he was crafting a tyrant of the shallows. As the decades turned, the boy became a man of sharp angles and sharper ambitions. In his time, the sea was the only road to power, and Sebastian intended to pave it with his own legends. He acquired a ship, the Task, and a crew of men who followed him not because they loved him, but because they believed he was charmed. "These waters know their king," Sebastian would roar from the quarterdeck, even as the sky turned the bruised purple of a coming hurricane. Unlike his crew, he no longer made offerings. He stopped watching the horizon with the wary respect of a mariner. Instead, he challenged the tide. He would sail directly into the teeth of a cyclone, laughing as the rigging screamed, convinced that the waves would part for him like the Red Sea. And Neptune, trapped in his own affection for the boy he had watched on the beach, continued to part them. He held the Task's hull together with invisible currents. He smoothed the path of the prow. He was a silent parent protecting a child who was spitting in his face. In the heart of the cyclone, the air was no longer gas. It was a pressurized slurry of salt and screaming winds. Sebastian held firm at the wheel, his tender hands grasping the spokes. His crew were on their knees, howling for mercy, but Sebastian's face was a mask of pure, ecstatic arrogance. "Is this the best you have?" he shouted into the abyss. "I am Sebastian, I am the master of the deep, yield to me." Neptune rose then, not as a figure but as a realization. He looked up from the crushing dark and saw the man the boy had become. There was no bravery left in Sebastian, only a hollow, unbridled ego that threatened to unbalance the very nature of the wild. To save him again would be to lie to the universe. The god felt a profound, liquid grief. He remembered the 7-year-old with the driftwood stick, the feeling he felt when he first observed the boy. He remembered it, though looking on now he knew it only to be a memory. With a heavy heart, Neptune withdrew his hand. He stopped holding the currents. He stopped smoothing the swells. He didn't just let the storm happen. He became the storm. He commanded a single, vertical wall of water to rise. Sebastian didn't gasp when he saw it. He smiled, certain that the wave would bow at the last second. He reached out a hand, expecting the water to kiss his palm. The wave did not bow. It crashed with the weight of a falling moon. As the task vanished into splintered history, Sebastian finally felt the truth. The water wasn't a servant. It wasn't a dog. It was an ancient, indifferent god that had simply been humoring him. As water filled his lungs, his final thought wasn't one of conquest, but of the weight, the terrible, magnificent weight of the thing he thought he had mastered. Neptune watched bubbles rise until there were none left. Then he went back to the dark, the god of a world that remained, as always, beautifully, terrifyingly alone.